of our class. This is a really important week. This week we're shifting away from pre-selected readings into students doing their own original research. We're going to be starting Unit 2, which is possibly the most important unit in the semester because during Unit 2, you will research and write an extended, argumentative, synthesized, college-level research essay. That 6-page essay that's due around Thanksgiving time is the requirement for passing English 1010. Without it, you can't pass the course. Without it, this course isn't transferable. So I want to take a little bit of time in a slightly longer video to go over a few things of importance. Please feel free to pause the video at different times if you need to, or to go back and review things as I go over them. So the first thing is make sure that you are looking at the announcements page. Pretty regularly, I'll be putting updates, hints, and tips and other information that you need throughout this particular unit. And one of the big things that I want to draw everyone's attention to is the reminder that some of the grading has changed. So in response to that mid-semester survey of student feedback, I adjusted some of the course requirements to decrease the workload, and I've made some of the homework and process work optional. If you were doing the class before and you thought that all of the homework and the process work was really helpful in getting you to write successful essays, then I would encourage you to continue working the same way that you've worked all the way through. All of the work in the class really is designed to be the pre-writing, planning, and drafting of the essays. So nothing was ever made to be busy work. But if you feel like you don't have time for this kind of a workload, or really if you feel like you already have these skills and you don't need the review, then you can treat anything that has an OPT before it as an optional activity. That means it doesn't count for or against your assignments. If you complete 85% of the optional assignments, you'll earn extra credit, which is 1 letter grade increase on whatever your lowest paper assignment is. That could be a really big boost. So if you're someone who likes extra credit, those optional activities can be they'll be basically the only way to get extra credit in this course. So when you take a look at our upcoming assignments, what you're going to notice is quite a few of them have this OPT designation before them. I would really, really suggest that you go ahead and open up each of those assignments. Take a look at what the assignment is asking for and make sure that you have mastery or knowledge. If you don't, I'd suggest at least working through parts of the assignment. Now, optional assignments to receive credit have to be submitted by the due date and time listed. Anyone who does submit the optional assignment by the due date and the time listed will receive feedback from me that can help you write your upcoming project. What you're going to see down here is these optional online research activities anything that says research activity can be really important, especially if you're unfamiliar with college level library databases. They're a great way to jump in and kind of get guided help. The other things that are now optional are some of the process work, including things that say sample source 1, sample source 2, sample source 3, sample source 4. I would highly, highly, highly suggest that you do at least one of these because you need to get feedback to make sure that the individual entries for your annotated bibliography are done correctly before you put together an 8-source annotated bibliography. Now, anything that does not say OPT, that still has just a number designation or PR, those are still required. And so the original late work policies for those are still in effect. That means that you can submit those up until the time the project is due for no deduction in points because they are required work. The readings are still required, so make sure that you are doing the readings as required. And the perusal work is still required. So let's take a look really quickly at what we're looking at coming up here on this new unit and the new module. We're done with Project 2, the synthesis essay. This is a reminder that anything from Project 2, anything due before October 9th is now no longer able to be submitted. So I'm not accepting late work on any of Project 2 at this point. Project 2 is in the books. If you turn in your project on time, you will get graded feedback for that within a week. And those will be posted as I grade them. We already went through the writing process. We already went through synthesis. And now we're going to move on to our next unit, which is our research unit. So for this unit, you're going to really get to select whatever topic you want to research about. But what you're going to be working on is the class is going to work on the general topic of post-truth. So if you take a look at this topic overview, I'd really recommend that you read this and view these videos before anything else. Basically, we're going to be looking at any topic that pertains to the internet, social media, and how we understand the truth today. Right? In the last 5 to 10 years, the way that the internet and social media especially has changed how information circulates, has created issues with false information, misinformation, disinformation, and just facts that are not actually facts. So as we're going to talk about in the section where I introduce the annotated bibliography, this does not have to be a political paper. I mean, you could look at something as simple as, beauty influencers on TikTok and how they create a vision of beauty based on like the way that the algorithm funnels all of these towards you. If you're interested in food, you could do that. If you're interested in music or sports or whatever it is that you're interested in, what I want you to think about is, how are those interests affected by how we interact with the world through the internet and social media? And how do you know what is true? How do you know what a fact is? And how do you know if you're getting something that might be misinformation? So I really, really recommend that you go through this overview. There are a few readings that are required and reading analyses that are required at the beginning of this unit, but you can use these in your annotated bibliography. So you're able to use up to 2 readings that I've provided in your annotated bibliography. The rest is going to be from the library sources. So this is actually your first step towards the assignment. What is post-truth? Comes from a small book by the MIT Press where they talk about kind of the development of the post-truth age. And The Root of Cognitive Bias also talks about those. Those are fairly short readings, pretty easy to digest. But give yourself time to go through them and do the reading analysis. This is going to give us a vocabulary with which to talk about issues of post-truth, misinformation, disinformation, and other issues that come up. Then the other reading that is required and the reading analysis that is required is a reading called Why the Last 10 Years Were So, I forget the name of the reading, hold on. Uniquely Stupid, I think is the name of the reading. Yeah, Why the Last 10 Years Have Been Uniquely Stupid. This is an article from The Atlantic magazine, and The Atlantic magazine skews towards a very educated and intellectual audience, which means that this is a long magazine article. I'd really suggest you chunk it up and break up your reading so you don't feel overwhelmed by it. It's not a difficult read, but because he's developing kind of a problem analysis solution outline, it can feel a little overwhelming. So give yourself time to get through it. Then down here, you have your annotated bibliography module. So when you open up the overview, it's really important that you are going through all of the information about annotated bibliographies. What you're going to get is information about what is an annotated bibliography. There's lots of resources about what they look like, including the instructions and overview that I've provided for you. It talks about the research topic, about the annotated bibliography, the different process work. Now, as I said, much of this process work is now optional, but when we get to these sample source entries, you really should submit one of those on time, because what I'll do is I'll go through it and tell you if you formatted it correctly and if the content is correct. Because once you know you've done one entry correctly, then you can do your annotated bibliography really successfully. But if you haven't checked in and made sure you're doing it right, you could turn in an annotated bibliography that is so off base, you're not going to get full credit for it. This also talks about some research strategies, finding your research question, and there's some videos about doing preliminary research. So the big difference between high school research and research in college. is oftentimes when students are doing research in high school, they already know what they want to say. They already have the argument that they want to make, and they go find sources that support that argument. But in college courses, especially as you progress through your college classes, you don't know enough yet. You don't know deep enough knowledge yet in order to make an argument. Instead, the goal is to do enough preliminary research that you can ask a question. That's the huge difference between high school and college level research. So basically, if you can type your research question into Google and all the sources say the same answer, that is not a college level research question. What you're looking for is to learn enough about the topic in general that you can start figuring out what hasn't been said yet, just like we did for Unit 1. You did a lot of background reading about grammar, about first-year composition, about the 5-paragraph essay, and then that allowed you to write out of knowledge. You're going to do the same thing for this project, only you're going to do the majority of the research. And so some of the preliminary reading that is in our class is going to help you with that background knowledge. There's also information on formatting your annotated bibliography. There's a couple videos there that walk you through the format. It'll talk about writing the source synthesis overview, which I'll talk about also later in the project, and finalizing your annotated bibliography. So again, this is a big project because whatever you do for your annotated bibliography, you are also going to do it for the research essay. You cannot switch between the two projects. You cannot switch topics. So again, some of these are now optional. There are a couple that are still required, like the research question proposal is still required because I want to make sure everybody is on the right track before they get too far into the project. And then the project itself and some of the reflection stuff is still required. So it's a big shift. It's a big change from what we've done before. I have decreased some of the required assignments, so please take advantage of that if that would help you be more successful. Feel free to go ahead and complete them if you would like more feedback on your work. Let me know if you have any questions. I know this was a bit longer than my usual overview videos, but hopefully it's kind of covered where we're moving in the semester now. Hope you have a great day and a great rest of your week, and don't forget to reach out if you need help with anything.